a bill.
And we must take this opportunity to thank Mzee. They are members of parliament. I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 24(6), the thanks of this House be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the address of His Excellency the President delivered in Parliament on Thursday, 21st November 2024, and further that this House notes the following reports submitted by His Excellency the President in fulfillment of the provisions of Articles 132(1)(c) and 247 of the Constitution, laid on the table of the House on Monday, 25th November 2024. 1. The 11th Annual Report on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of national values and principles of governance. Honorable Speaker, if you can protect me from the loud noise by the member for Tigania East, who is also the chair for Agriculture, the chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, Dindi Nyoro.
Those Kamkunjis are illegal.
Honorable Pauline Languris and Rebecca Tongei. Their consultations are a bit too loud. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. 2 is the 11th Annual Report on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic of Kenya. And 3, the Annual Report to Parliament on the state of the national security. Honorable Speaker, in fulfillment of the provisions of Articles 132(1)(c) and 247 of the Constitution, the President of the Republic of Kenya last week on Thursday delivered his State of the Nation address for the 2024 year. The Council and the functions and responsibilities of national security, which is mandated to once every year to report to the National Assembly on the state of the security of the nation, and that is what the President was doing in fulfillment of that particular article, reporting on behalf of the National Security Council on the state of our security as a country. On Articles 132(1)(c), Honorable Speaker, the President is required under 132(1)(c) to once every year report in an address to the nation, and that's what he did on Thursday, on all measures taken and the progress achieved in the realization of the national values referred to in Article 10, and then subsequently publish that in the Gazette notice, and which has already been done, Honorable Speaker, and submit for debate to the National Assembly on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic. And the President was able to submit all those reports, and they are therefore before the House for debate. Honorable Speaker, I speak to our national values because it's important, Honorable Speaker, to remind ourselves, what are these national values that we expect the President to come and report on their realization? And among these national values, Honorable Speaker, are 1, patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, the rule of law, democracy, and the participation of the people. 2 is human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, human rights, non-discrimination and protection of the marginalized. And C is good governance, integrity, transparency and accountability, and D, sustainable development. And therefore, the question that begs, Honorable Speaker, when we listen to the President, did he speak to some of these issues? Did he speak to the issues that guarantee us that there will be sustainable development in our country? Did he speak about good governance? Did he speak about integrity, transparency, and accountability, even amidst the challenge that he threw to the House on the enactment of the Conflict of Interest Bill? And for the record, Honorable Speaker, let me state that it is indeed true. We did, as the National Assembly, adopt and pass the Conflict of Interest Bill earlier this year, which was transmitted to the other House in the Senate. They did enact a number of amendments, which the committee of JLAC has considered and disagreed substantially with many of the amendments that were diluting that bill. And we have therefore caused a mediation committee. And it's on record, Honorable Speaker, that when the first mediation committee was called, not a single senator was present to attend the mediation committee. And I would like to take this opportunity to ask members of the other house in the Senate to avail themselves for the mediation process. Because then if there's a house that is conflicted in the conflict of interest, it is not this house. It is a house that diluted the bill. And it is also the house that has been unavailable for the mediation process. And I believe the Honorable Murugara is ready. And indeed, we have had discussions with the leader of majority in the Senate. And Honorable Murugara had a discussion with him on Sunday, yesterday, Honorable Speaker, to expedite with the mediation process and reach out to the chair of the JLAC committee in the Senate, so that those members in the Senate who are supposed to be in that mediation committee may be available. Because this conflict of interest bill, Honorable Speaker, is not just something the President mentioned by passing in asking us if there is any conflict of interest in passing the conflict of interest bill. We expedite and pass it because it is critical in the fight against corruption. And if we expect the President, Honorable Speaker, to be speaking about good governance, about integrity, about transparency and accountability in government, then it cannot happen. And even on sustainable development, we cannot have sustainable development without speaking and acting on conflicts of interest. More fundamentally, Honorable Speaker, was a directive that the President issued from the floor of this House, and I was hoping that the National Treasury officials were listening to the President on the question of e-procurement. We cannot have transparency in procurement if we do not move towards digitization of our procurement processes. But, Honorable Speaker, as the President mentioned, or rather, I don't know if he mentioned, he didn't mention, but he said we have faltered on actualization of the e-procurement. And that faltering is not in the last 10 years. Since the Kibaki regime, we have always spoken about e-procurement. And I am glad that the President did direct, but by the end of the first quarter of 2025, the National Treasury must ensure that e-procurement is not something we are talking about, it becomes a reality. And it is indeed possible, Honorable Speaker, to have e-procurement if we are to deal with accountability and transparency in the procurement of goods and services in government. Because the root cause of corruption anywhere in government, Honorable Speaker, across the two levels of government, issues to do with corruption revolve around two major issues. One, conflicts of interest. Two, procurement issues, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, if we are able to enact the conflict of interest bill and we are able to actualize the e-procurement processes in both levels of government, then corruption will be a matter of the past. Honorable Speaker, in speaking to the issues that I've spoken about of sustainable development, Honorable Speaker, the President went at length to enumerate the gains that his administration in the last 2 years has achieved, right from the appreciation of the Kenyan shilling against the US dollar, from a high of 162 shillings, Honorable Speaker, to a low of 129 shillings. Two, Honorable Speaker, in managing our inflation, that for the first time, and this is data that is there from the National Bureau of Statistics, it is data that is there even from our development partners, that for the first time in 17 years, inflation, the rate of inflation has fallen to almost 2.7%. And Honorable Speaker, from a high of almost 9.6%. And the rate of inflation, Honorable Speaker, is what basically drives the high cost of living. And therefore, in speaking, Honorable Speaker, to the issues that Kenyans have spoken very loudly about, the cost of living, in addressing the rate of inflation, Honorable Speaker, by deliberate investments in production and not consumption, Honorable Speaker, that is how this administration has been able to bring down the rate of inflation which largely is driven by our foreign exchange rates, the cost of fuel
Order.
around the world.
Honorable Mbuyi and Kawaya, you may be required to carry out that animated discussion elsewhere. You are making it difficult for even the speaker to follow the proceedings.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You know, I was also getting very distracted because when they converse in Kikamba, I'm only hearing Nesa Nesa. Thank you for that protection. Honorable Speaker, I was saying, by managing to contain inflation, we have in a significant way managed also to contain the high cost of living. And I know we are not yet there, but the message from the address by the President is that we are getting there. With the fall of the dollar against the Kenya shilling, Honorable Speaker, we have been able even to, Speaker, you can imagine for every dollar that we borrowed, we are now saving almost 33 shillings. And that, Honorable Speaker, is almost 33 shillings. And that, Honorable Speaker, is a significant saving to the people of Kenya. And that 33 shillings to the dollar against all our foreign debt is money that now is not going to service our debts, but money that we can deploy in development activities across the nation. Honorable Speaker, in speaking to the realization of these national values, the President did speak in detail to the investments in the affordable housing sector, Honorable Speaker. He did speak to the employment of 56,000 teachers in only 2 years, Honorable Speaker. And he did state that, Honorable Speaker, by the time he took over office, we had a shortage of 110,000 teachers. That tells you, Honorable Speaker, we've only been able to do about 50% of that shortage. And he did enumerate, Honorable Speaker, the gains that we have had in the education sector in trying to stabilize the shaky sector that we had when he took over 2 years ago with a CBC system that was new. We were not certain where we'd host our CBC students in junior secondary. Now all Kenyans know that these young ones are being hosted in our primary schools. The massive investment that has gone also in this sector, in the education sector, Honorable Speaker. Close to 11,000 classrooms being built within a year to ensure that our junior secondary school children are able to have classrooms across the nation. And I must indeed commend the collaboration that members of Parliament have given the Ministry of Education through NGCDF, Honorable Speaker, to make it a reality that across our country, children who are transiting from grade 8 to grade 9, in January we'll have classrooms and laboratories that will help them to cater for their education. The President did indicate, Honorable Speaker, that come January next year, 2025, a further 20,000 teachers will be hired, bringing the total to 76,000 teachers to bridge that deficit of 110,000 teachers that was there. Honorable Speaker, on the health sector, Honorable Speaker, the President did enumerate the transition that we have moved and thanked the House for the enactment of the Social Health Insurance Fund for the 4 laws that we did pass in this House and the other House that have enabled this country now to transition from the National Health Insurance Fund to the Social Health Insurance Fund, or Taifa Care, as it has been christened. Honorable Speaker, the Taifa Care program, as the President did indicate, is designed to expand healthcare access to all citizens, not just the privileged few. The National Health Insurance Fund, Honorable Speaker, largely catered for the privileged few who are employed and who are on salary. But this Social Health Insurance, or Taifa Care Fund, Honorable Speaker, now caters even for those who are not privileged to be employed, those working in the informal sector, and more importantly, to the vulnerable populations of unemployed people, our elderly who are benefiting from the cash transfer program, who are now automatically being onboarded upon registration onto the Social Health Insurance Fund. Honorable Speaker, because people have demonized this program, largely out of disinformation and misinformation being propagated out there, Honorable Speaker, without people realizing the huge benefits. And I am very happy today, Honorable Speaker, that Kenyans across the nation are the ones who are now posting their testimonials on social media, testifying to the benefits that they have been able to accrue. I am very happy, Honorable Speaker, when I see Kenyans share their testimonials, how mothers who are delivering in hospitals are getting both pre- and postnatal care under the Social Health Insurance Fund, how people who are suffering from chronic illnesses under the Chronic Emergency and Critical Illnesses Fund, people are accessing dialysis, people are accessing chemotherapy care for those who are suffering from cancer, and all other emergency and critical illnesses care under Taifa Care, Honorable Speaker. And being onboarded, Honorable Speaker, or rather enjoying the benefits of this fund without having to wait. You know, Kenyans never knew that under the National Health Insurance Fund, or NHIF, you had a waiting period where upon paying, you could not be onboarded and your bills would not be sorted out in hospitals until after 6 months. Now under Taifa Care, Honorable Speaker, the moment you register, the moment you go to the mean testing score and you pay your premiums, you are immediately onboarded and you can begin enjoying services, medical care services, and your bills being sorted out by the Social Health Insurance Fund without having to wait for a waiting period. And the same goes, Honorable Speaker, for those suffering from chronic illnesses. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, this Social Health Insurance Fund under Taifa Care is not only transformative for this country, but is a program that will benefit in a big way the most vulnerable of our people in society. And I have heard people asking the President, what happened to the people you are speaking about during the campaigns? And Honorable Speaker, you know, I accompanied the President together with you across the nation when we told people that we will uplift those at the bottom of the economic pyramid to the top. Part of that uplifting, the uplifting of Mama Mboga, the uplifting of Boda Boda, is to uplift them to enjoy the same level of medical care and medical insurance cover that a member of parliament, a governor, a president enjoys in this country. That Mama Mboga today, a Boda Boda rider today, will enjoy the same level of care when they are sick or when they have an accident as a member of parliament. Honorable Speaker, members of parliament who are paying 1,700 shillings under NHIF, now we are paying close to 27,000 shillings. But that money is going to take care of many of our constituents. Constituents who are waiting for us over the weekends to beg for fundraisers to take care of their bills. Honorable Speaker, I look forward in the coming days to a time that no member of parliament will fear going to their village homes because of the many people queuing around their homes and around their offices waiting for fundraisings for their hospital bills because they will be taken care of by Taifa Care. Indeed, Taifa Care cares about our nation. And Taifa Care is about care for the vulnerable in our nation, for those at the bottom of the economic pyramid, Honorable Speaker. And we let us take advantage, even when we go on the long recess, to onboard as many of our constituents as we can to the Social Health Insurance Fund or Taifa Care program, so that they may continue to enjoy these gains, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in expounding also on these national values, the President did allude to the social, not the social housing, Honorable Speaker, the affordable housing, which also incorporates an element of social housing, and also market or commercial rate housing. And Honorable Speaker, in the 4,088 housing schemes around the country, Honorable Speaker, that are not just affording Kenyans an opportunity. In the 4,008, there are actually 4,808 affordable housing units that are across the country, Honorable Speaker, that were recently launched, not just stimulating industry in the construction industry, Honorable Speaker, and manufacturing industry, but also create why the President alluded to the opportunities overseas and across our borders, Honorable Speaker, that close to 105,000 Kenyans have now secured employment opportunities overseas, and millions have also been empowered by the Hustler Fund to become employers, self-employed, Honorable Speaker, and some transitioning also to become employers, courtesy of the funding they have received from the Hustler Fund. Honorable Speaker, also in safeguarding our national values, to encourage patriotism, the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people. I am glad that His Excellency the President never shied away from speaking about the issues that have been raised by Kenyans. And I was happy when I heard him say that there is a difference between an arrest and an abduction. Because we have been now tuned, or Kenyans have been tuned by the culture of misinformation and disinformation. Even when I am arrested, my supporters just need to tweet or post on social media that the Member of Parliament for Kikuyu has been abducted. Honorable Speaker, I am happy that the President was very clear to create that dichotomy between what are legitimate arrests and what are abductions, and what government agencies ought to be doing and should be doing and must do in relation to abductions, Honorable Speaker. And abductions, Honorable Speaker, are not necessarily from government agencies. We have seen, and I did speak last week here about the case example of the criminal element who was arrested by DCI, and thank DCI for the swift action where people, young women, were abducted from Isli, tortured and murdered, and the same character then abducted and killed another lady in Kilimani, Honorable Speaker. And I said it is expedient, and I've heard even some of us, Honorable Speaker, out there speak about these things. But we are very quick to condemn, but slow to thank the Directorate of Criminal Intelligence when they act swiftly to ensure that criminals who either maim, hurt, or even murder, whether it is femicide where they are killing our women and our young women more so, but even other people, Honorable Speaker, including men, when DCI acts swiftly and is able to apprehend these criminals, we must thank them. But we must also speak and condemn any manner of abduction and say that all government agencies must act in accordance with our Constitution and with our statutes and ensure that we are all safe. And I'm glad that the President did speak at length on these issues, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the agricultural sector, which is the backbone of our economy, Honorable Speaker, when we speak about bringing down our rate of inflation from 9.6% to 2.7%, the first in 17 years, because it was only before the post-election violence, prior to the post-election violence in 2005 to 2007, that we had this kind of inflation rates. And Honorable Speaker, we would not have been able to achieve this had we or had this administration not been deliberate in the massive investment that they have put, and the President has been speaking about it, in subsidized fertilizer, Honorable Speaker, and it is out of this subsidized fertilizer, Honorable Speaker, that we said we shall no longer subsidize production, consumption, but we will subsidize production, and that, Honorable Speaker, the results are there now to be seen. That we are not just talking about lower inflation at 2.7%, down from 9.6. We are also talking about increased production that is now bringing the cost of food prices down and therefore bringing our cost of inflation down. Honorable Speaker, when I listened to the President last week, Honorable Speaker, speak about the sugar industry, that for the first time, 17 sugar factories in this country are up and running. That for the first time, Honorable Speaker, another 4 factories, new factories, are being under construction, not just to process sugar, Honorable Speaker, because the sugar is there, because we have encouraged our farmers to get back to sugar production. The Honorable Wangwe, the sponsor of the sugar bill, will tell you some years back, farmers in Western Kenya and the sugar belt areas of our country were now moving away from sugar to other food crops because they were frustrated. Today, sugar farmers are getting back to sugarcane farming because it is now paying, because we are able to produce adequate sugar for our country. But more importantly, Honorable Speaker, is that we are now not only producing sugar as a raw material for those 17 Class 4 factories, creating employment not just for our farmers in the production cycle, but also in the manufacturing cycle. We are now getting factories roaring back to life. And that comes with job opportunities for millions of our young people, Honorable Speaker. We are also saving on our foreign exchange, Honorable Speaker. Only last year, we imported hundreds of thousands of metric tons of sugar into this country, exporting our dollars to other countries as far as Mexico and Brazil. This year, Honorable Speaker, for the first time, we are not having to import even a kilogram of sugar. And these are things, Honorable Speaker, that we must shout about and be proud of. That we are now, when we spoke about the policy of substituting, import substitution, Honorable Speaker, people thought it was just stories we were speaking about. It is now a reality that we are not importing sugar. If anything, we can now export sugar to the Sudan. And I know people who are making efforts to now export our sugar to the Sudan. But we must also caution the ministry concerned to ensure, again, we don't export all our sugar and we are left without enough for our local production. But we must be proud, Honorable Speaker, that not just sugar, maize, Honorable Speaker. Only a year ago we had to import maize. We now don't have to import a single grain of maize. We have enough being produced. In fact, Honorable Speaker, the fallacy now is that it is now the other side. It is now farmers saying that the prices have gone too low at the expense, Honorable Speaker, of consumers who would be complaining if the prices were high. But we must be proud, Honorable Speaker, that we now have adequate food. We have ensured that there is food security in our country. Food prices are down, inflation is down, the shilling is strong. Our nation's economy is getting stronger by the day, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in completion, I have heard many people admonish members of Parliament that you gave a standing ovation to the President when he did direct on action on termination of the Adani contracts. Honorable Speaker, give me a minute. Let me say in conclusion, Honorable Speaker, members of Parliament, myself included, and I have seen many who have spoken. In fact, I took time to go through clips to see what members of Parliament were saying. Members of Parliament have been defending the issue of public-private partnerships as an alternative way of using or rather implementing our capital projects, Honorable Speaker. And that has not changed. The President did indicate when he appeared here that following information that now they had received from partner states and friendly states is the reason why he was terminating the Adani deals. That is not to mean, Honorable Speaker, that we do not need a new airport at JKIA. That is not to mean, Honorable Speaker, that millions of Kenyans who have no access to power do not need that power. That is not to mean, Honorable Speaker,
You beg to move?
Yes, Honorable Speaker.
Conclude that statement.
I conclude that statement by saying it is not to mean that without Adani, we do not need to get the massive investment that we need at JKIA, the massive investment that we need in our energy sector and our road sector, Honorable Speaker. I look forward to the President, as he said, our nation's economy and the nation is resilient. I look forward to the President and his administration ensuring that they get alternative private partnerships to ensure that JKIA is redone, more international airports in Kisumu and in Mombasa are redone, that Ketraco is able to transmit the idle power that we have generated. We have invested hundreds of billions in generation of power, but we can't evacuate that power because we don't have the capital resources to evacuate that power. We need to evacuate that power, take it to our villages, make sure that our people can get jobs through manufacturing in the villages by having factories being established there. Those who can work online, Honorable Speaker, because they have access to power. And Honorable Speaker, I must encourage the President and the government, the Kenya Kwanza government, to ensure that the public-private partnership deals that have been lost with Adani, they work with speed. And also challenge the naysayers, Honorable Speaker. If you don't like Adani, bring Ambani, or bring the Turkish, bring the Chinese, bring the Americans, bring anyone with capital to invest in this country. How I wish, Honorable Speaker, that those who have been admonishing these private-public partnerships are giving us alternative solutions and telling us this particular investor is not good, we have this other particular investor that is better. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request all of us to debate, and there is nothing to support, Honorable Speaker, it's just to note. But as we debate, we do it with decorum, and also be forthright with Kenyans that PPPs are the new way to actualize capital investments. The roads, Honorable Speaker, those who go to the western part of our country, if you try and drive from Nairobi to Nakuru or to Malaba today on a Friday, it takes you inordinately long, Honorable Speaker. Nakuru, a journey that should take you 1.5 hours, today takes close to 4.5 hours. I look forward to the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure getting a PPP arrangement to ensure that the long-lost Rironi-Mau Summit Road, and all the way to Malaba, for instance, if it was possible, Honorable Speaker, that trucks should be able to use a toll road from Nairobi or from Mombasa all the way to Malaba to open up our borders and regional trade, Honorable Speaker, and deepen and tighten, as you told us last week.
And widen.
And widen. Widen, deepen, widen, and tighten our regional integration. And that is only possible through regional trade, and that regional trade will not be a reality if we cannot adopt public-private partnerships as the new way of capitalizing or financing capital-intensive projects to avoid, as we have said, overtaxing Kenyans. Because the alternative is to tax Kenyans. But because Kenyans have spoken, and I'm glad, Honorable Speaker, the President told us that those of us in leadership, listening is a full-time occupation. And I am glad we have a president who has not only demonstrated to Kenyans that he is focused, but he is also listening to Kenyans. And in listening to Kenyans, he acts not out of political expediency, but acts in the best interest of the country and with a long-term view of where this country ought to be, and working hard to take it there. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move. And I want to request the leader of minority, my good friend, the Honorable Junet Mohammed, to second the motion.
Good friend, you have 20 minutes to second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to second